All right, we'll call this general committee meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. We start our meetings with a land acknowledgement, and we'll have a video.
We acknowledge that we gather on the traditional and treaty territories of the Williams Treaties First Nations, including Nishnawbek peoples of Hiawatha, Curve Lake, Alderville, Beausoleil, Jordina Island, Rama, and the Mississaugas of Skugog Island. For generations, the Michi-Sagi Nishnawbek have cared for these lands and waters, guided by knowledge, ceremony, and responsibility. We recognize the ongoing impacts of these treaties, the injustices that occurred, and the enduring strength and resurgence of Indigenous communities. As we live and work here, we commit to reflection, respect, and meaningful action in the spirit of reconciliation.
And the Council for the City of Peterborough recognizes the principles contained in our Constitution and the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We'll now take 30 seconds to reflect. Please stand for the singing of the national anthem. Strong and free from we stand on Lord worthy. Lord, we land. Lord, All right, adoption of minutes, March 2nd, March 13th, 12:30, March 13th, 8 p.m., and March 23rd. Moved by Councillor Crowley. Any comments or questions, errors, or omissions? We'll take a vote. And that is carried. And I should mention that Councillor Burke sends his regrets this evening. Mr. Clerk, any disclosure of pecuniary interest this evening?
Mr. Chair, I see none at this time.
All right, we'll move to our consent agenda. Committee members, let me know if you'd like to speak to any of the following. 12A, Peterborough City Soccer Agreement and Designation of a Municipal Capital Facility. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Seeing none. 13A, 2025 Investment Report. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Seeing none. 14A, Designation of 212-216 London Street. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Councillor Hakey? 14B, notice of objection, Hunter Street. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Councillor Hakey. So up for consent this evening, 12A and 13A, moved by Councillor Purnell. We'll take a vote. And that is carried. All right, we have two presentations this evening. Our first one, 11A, Ashburnham Drive realignment and McFarland Street Bridge replacement Class EA approval. And with that, we have Mr. Dunford. Mr. Dunford, welcome. Thank you for being here this evening.
Good evening, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this evening. This is a bit of an unusual situation for staff tonight. There have been some staffing changes at our consultant in the last couple of weeks, and just over a week ago, our consultant project manager informed us that he would not be able to attend tonight. So as a result, I'm here and I will deliver their presentation on their behalf. I do also have a couple of staff from our consultant who have joined us online. So this evening, the presentation will summarize the findings of the municipal class environmental assessment for the Ashburnham Drive realignment and the McFarland Street Bridge replacement. I'll begin with a brief overview of the study background and EA process, followed by the key problems and opportunities identified in the corridor. I'll then walk through the alternative design concepts that were developed and evaluated, the recommended road and bridge design concepts, considerations related to the existing Ashburnham Drive and McFarland Street Bridge, and the consultation activities undertaken throughout the study and how they were incorporated into the decision-making process. So why does this project matter? This project supports anticipated growth through to 2051 by providing infrastructure that can accommodate future travel demands while addressing existing technical and safety deficiencies within the corridor. It enables the development of a continuous and connected active transportation network, improving walking and cycling opportunities for residents and visitors. The project also supports a key area of recreation and tourism while protecting and respecting the surrounding Peterborough Liftlock and Trent Severn Waterway National Historic Sites. Overall, this project aligns with the Citywide Transportation Master Plan, the Cycling Master Plan, and the East Side Transportation Study, and is consistent with broader municipal planning objectives. The Municipal Class Environmental Assessment Study was initiated following the East Side Transportation Study, which was completed and approved by Council in 2022. The East Side Transportation Study was a transportation master plan for East City that identified several transportation network improvements, as shown on the slide, to address deficiencies in long-term network needs in this area of the city. This included the realignment of Ashburnham Drive and replacement of the McFarland Street Bridge. The East Side Transportation Study followed approach number 1 of the master planning process and addressed phases 1 and 2 of the municipal class environmental assessment. The study followed the municipal class EA process for Schedule C undertakings. These types of projects must address all 5 phases of the municipal class EA. Phases 1 and 2 were addressed through the East Side Transportation Study. Building on the recommendations of that, this EA focused on phases 3 and 4 of the municipal class EA, including the development and evaluation of alternative design concepts, assessment of environmental impacts, development of proposed mitigation measures, consultation with the public agencies, First Nations, and documentation of the decision-making process, which is summarized in the environmental study report. The ESR will be posted for a minimum of 30 days for public review and comments. Any projects proposed on federally owned land are also subject to the requirements of the Impact Assessment Act. Both Trent Severn Waterway and McFarland Street Bridge are federally owned and managed by Parks Canada, and the Parks Canada impact assessment process and works permit application will be required during detailed design. Ashburnham Drive runs along the east side of the Trent Severn Waterway, an area rich in leisure and tourist activities. The Peterborough Lift Lock and Trent Severn Waterway attract a high number of visitors who travel to and walk around these significant heritage features. Near the lift lock, Ashburnham Drive does not offer sidewalks and/or cycling infrastructure, and parking is currently limited to gravel shoulder. North of the lift lock, Ashburnham Drive is situated within the berm that forms the east bank of the canal, and the geometry of the roadway in this area results in poor sightlines. This presents a significant challenge to planning physical improvements to the existing roadway, such as bikeways and sidewalks. Parking in this area is informal and occurs on gravel shoulders, contributing to safety conflicts. The McFarland Street Bridge is limited to one travel lane and does not offer active transportation facilities. The bridge is often used by cyclists to access the rest of the city, which poses potential safety concerns. The bridge does not meet modern operational or safety standards and presents capacity and safety constraints that cannot be resolved through minor upgrades. The realignment of Ashburnham Drive provides an opportunity to create a safer and more comfortable environment for active transportation users while addressing the technical constraints associated with the existing roadway alignment. By relocating the road and shifting the alignment to the east, sightlines can be significantly improved, enhancing overall safety for all users. The realignment also allows for better accommodation of appropriate transit stops and improved access for pedestrians and transit users. It also creates a potential opportunity to reuse the existing roadway alignment as open space adjacent to the canal, supporting active transportation and recreational uses along the corridor. The replacement of the existing McFarland Street Bridge provides an opportunity to improve traffic capacity by accommodating 2 lanes of vehicle traffic and separate active transportation facilities. A new bridge could address the safety concerns associated with the narrow single-lane structure and lack of pedestrian and cycling infrastructure. It would also offer a reliable connection over the Trent Severn Waterway, improving access to the rest of the city and its key destinations. Overall, replacing the bridge would improve connectivity for all transportation users, including motorists, pedestrians, cyclists, transit vehicles, and emergency services. Three initial realignment concept options were developed for Ashburnham Drive. These options differed in how far the roadway shifted east of the canal and how they could reconnect to the existing road network. Each option included intersection improvements and was evaluated against transportation performance, impacts to the natural environment and existing floodplain, cultural heritage, socioeconomic environment, proximity to the Trent Severn Waterway, and potential property impacts. These concept options were shared with the public for review and comment as part of the first Public Information Center held in September 2022. During the initial development of alternative design concepts 1 through 3, it was noted that alternative 2 provided the best opportunity to support new parking facilities and leisure and recreation activities. However, it was expected to impact the existing bankments of the Trent Severn Waterway. To avoid impacts to the character-defining elements of a National Historic Site, alternative design concept 4 was developed as a hybrid of design concepts 1 and 2. Similar to design concept 2, Ashburnham Drive is realigned further east of the banks of the Trent Severn Waterway, with the exception that the south portion of the alignment was modified to improve the road geometry and avoid direct impacts to the embankment. A range of cross-section options were also assessed, including separated sidewalks and cycling facilities, as well as multi-use path options. The comparative evaluation demonstrated that separated facilities perform better for a high-capacity urban collector roadway in terms of safety, operations, cost, and long-term maintenance. The recommended design concept for Ashburnham Drive, alternative design concept 4, is recommended as it realigns Ashburnham Drive east and avoids impacts to the Trent Severn Waterway and provides sidewalks and boulevard cycling facilities. This design provides separation between all travel modes and provides the best opportunity to enhance access to the Peterborough Lift Lock and Trent Severn Waterway. The recommended cross-section includes a typical arrangement of a 2.5 meter boulevard, a 1.8 meter cycling facility, a boulevard buffer, and a 1.8 meter sidewalk to support safe and comfortable movement for all users. A wider 4.2 meter boulevard is incorporated to accommodate utilities, landscaping, and snow storage, and to provide additional separation from adjacent properties. The overall right-of-way reduces from 30 meters to 20 meters north of Old Norwood Road to minimize potential impacts to adjacent lands while maintaining the required roadway and active transportation elements. McFarland Street Bridge concepts. 5 bridge concepts were developed and evaluated, including replacement on the existing alignment and new crossings north and south of the current bridge, as you can see in the slide. Bridge cross-section options were also developed and assessed, including separated sidewalks and cycling facilities and multi-use path options. 5 alternatives were developed, evaluated, and presented at Public Information Center number 2. The evaluation considered a range of criteria, including transportation performance, constructability, potential impacts to the Trent Severn Waterway, natural environment, effects on parkland and nearby properties. A preferred design was identified based on its ability to achieve design and operating standards, create a less constrained horizontal and vertical roadway geometry, and require a relatively short bridge span when compared to the other alternatives. It avoids direct impacts to Ashburnham Memorial Park and is anticipated to have lower impacts to natural features such as wildlife habitats and species at risk when compared to the other alternatives. The preferred bridge design is also anticipated to be the most cost-effective option. Similar to Ashburnham Drive, the recommended bridge provides a 2-lane crossing with dedicated sidewalks and cycling facilities on both sides of the right-of-way. These facilities are physically separated to enhance safety. The recommended bridge is proposed approximately 30 meters north of the existing bridge and consists of a 46.7 meter long span across the canal, measuring 17.2 meters wide. A curved design was developed for the bridge to help minimize property impacts to the extent possible. The bridge will accommodate 2 3.5 meter wide traffic lanes with 1 lane in each direction. 1.8 meter wide buffered bicycle lanes on both sides. Concrete parapet walls are provided to separate the cycling facilities from traffic lanes, and 2 meter wide sidewalks are included on both sides of the bridge to support pedestrian travel. Engagement with Parks Canada helped to ensure the structure provides the minimum vertical clearance above the operating water level of the Trent Severn Waterway. Recognizing the significant constraints within the study area, such as the profile for the road and bridge and proximity to private property, the design includes cul-de-sacs at Trentview Road and Watts Avenue to help address geometric constraints and reduce property impacts. The specific design details for these cul-de-sacs will be confirmed during the detailed design process. Based on the traffic analysis completed as part of this study, which considered traffic conditions up to 2051, unsignalized T intersections with dedicated turn lanes are proposed at Old Norwood Road, Norman Maker Avenue, and Manise Avenue to accommodate future traffic demands. A signalized intersection with traffic calming measures is recommended at Hunter Street to enhance safety within this culturally significant and constrained setting. The design also includes a new off-road multi-use trail connections and improved active transportation crossings that support east-west and north-south connectivity across the corridor. The existing Ashburnham Drive right-of-way and adjacent lands are situated within the designated major open space area. The Peterborough Lift Lock and Trent Severn Waterway National Historic Sites and other cultural and recreational destinations located to the north and south of the study area attract a number of tourists and local residents to the area year-round. The newly created space provided by the proposed realignment creates new opportunities to enhance access to area destinations during all seasons. Potential opportunities for their future use have been considered as part of the study, included but not limited to retain the existing right-of-way for recreational active transportation purposes, enhance the existing right-of-way with signage and multi-use paths to support year-round access to the National Historic Sites, design the space with features that support passive recreation, tourism, and programmed events. This could include things like interpretive signage, designated event areas, and seating areas. Remove the existing right-of-way to allow for further development, as well as considering options that provide visitor parking capacity. This may involve the creation of dedicated parking lots and/or the addition of a parking lane along the west side of the realigned Ashburnham Drive. If the existing Ashburnham Drive right-of-way is not repurposed for active transportation uses, a modified cross-section that incorporates a multi-use path along the west side of the realigned right-of-way would be recommended, only in that situation. It is recommended that the future use of the existing right-of-way and adjacent lands be confirmed through a separate study in collaboration with Parks Canada. The existing McFarland Street Bridge is owned by Parks Canada. While reuse could support active transportation and heritage interpretation, significant upgrades would be required to meet present-day standards. Engagement with Parks Canada has been ongoing throughout the East Side Transportation Study in this EA. However, Parks Canada has indicated in April 2025 that it does not intend to retain ownership of the existing bridge following construction of a new bridge. This creates a level of uncertainty regarding the long-term operation and maintenance of the existing structure, which could be transferred for the city. For this reason, the new bridge is designed to fully accommodate all users independently. Impacts on properties. The preferred design is expected to require acquisition of 3 private properties, including 1 private residence and 2 vacant parcels of land, and bisect the existing lift lock golf course. In total, approximately 3.58 hectares of private property will be required. The balance of the property required to accommodate the new road is currently owned and managed by Parks Canada and the city. Public and agency consultation. Public and agency consultation was conducted throughout the study and was key to identifying the preferred design. Consultation activities carried out during this assignment included a project webpage and email account to reach the study team, 2 public information centers held at key points in the design, development, and decision-making process, one-on-one meetings with affected property owners, coordination with a technical advisory committee, including representative of autonomy conservation, as well as city departments, ongoing collaboration with agencies such as Parks Canada, Autonomy Conservation, and were used to ensure environmental heritage, reporting, and regulatory requirements were addressed. Feedback received from consultation efforts directly influenced the preferred design, technical reporting, mitigation measures, and commitments for detailed design. Consultation with Indigenous communities. This study area is located within the treaty and traditional territories of the Mississauga Anishinaabe, the Williams Treaties First Nations, and the Treaty 20 area. In recognition of this, study notifications, including a formal notice of request to consult, were issued to the Williams Treaties First Nations. In addition to written notifications, meetings were offered and held with Curve Lake and Hiawatha First Nations, separate from the public information centers. These meetings were intended to introduce the study, share technical information, provide an opportunity for community representatives to ask questions or raise concerns in a focused setting. An initial meeting was held in November 2022, where the study background, need, justification, and existing environmental and cultural conditions and potential realignment and cross-section concepts were presented. Technical reports related to cultural heritage and the natural environment were requested at that time and subsequently shared. A follow-up meeting was held in November 2023 to provide an update on study progress. Comments received included the use of wetlands and watercourses for traditional purposes, considerations related to species at risk, parking availability, and archaeological resources. In response, the study team provided relevant technical reports for review, invited the First Nations to participate in Stage 2 archaeological field investigations, and included commitments for further amphibian surveys during detailed design of the project. The city has committed to continued engagement with First Nations as the project advances into detailed design. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Mr. Dunsford, thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, we do have some questions. Councillor Reel and Baldwin. Councillor Reel and Lachika. Councillor Reel?
Through the chair, I'll move the report when appropriate.
Sure.
Mr. Dunford, how many people took part in the consultation and in-person meetings?
If I'm able to, I'll defer to the project manager.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. The public meetings. There was 2 online public information centers and 2 rounds of virtual public information centers. Online participation was well over 2,000. And one-on-one meetings with property owners, I believe there were 5.
Through the chair, Mr. Dunford, what is the date when we might see the completion of this project?
Through the chair, in our transportation master plan, this was a medium-term project, so 10 to 20 years. So 2030, 31 to 2040, potentially. The reason it was advanced early was to determine the land implications for development.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Reel. Councillor Baldwin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, Mr. Dunford. Thank you very much for the presentation. Lots of work here. I'm just wanting to find out if there's going to be any financial contribution by Trent Severn. We're going to be replacing their asset because it sounds like it doesn't meet present day standards, and they're not going to put money into it. Are they making any financial contribution toward the bridge replacement?
Through the chair, as of yet, no, we haven't had any sort of discussion with them about funding for any of this project as of yet.
Okay, so thanks for that. You mentioned some acquisition of property and being able to move traffic a little more expeditiously. Are you planning to do any light synchronization at the corner of Television Road and Old Norwood Road as part of the project?
That's a good through the chair. Sorry, that's a good question. I would say it goes beyond the scope of the environmental assessment, what we're looking at here, but that would be a traffic and operations issue that would be undertaken at that time.
Just to clarify, Mr. Chair, through you, while we're doing this work, Mr. Dunford, it would make good sense then to have traffic transportation analyze that particular corner. It is a safety issue. As people come from the east into our city and use our bridges and our roads, it becomes a pinch point, particularly in the winter. And people who are moving in a southerly direction, going down that hill, sometimes people are waiting for quite some time and they try and rush out, and the potential for an accident is kind of waiting. So I'd ask staff take an advisement, maybe have a look at that while they're doing the project. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are all my questions right now.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Baldwin. Questions? I have Councillor Lachika and Mayor Lil. Councillor Lachika?
Thank you very much. Through you, Chair Beamer. Thank you, Mr. Dunsford, for that detailed presentation. It was great to hear the process and all the information around the future of this project. Just a question. Appreciate that this is addressing safety deficiencies that would affect our cycling community. That is paramount in importance. I just am curious about the surface material for the bridge, whether it is modernized, and was there feedback given from the cycling community, particularly say the Peterborough Cycling Advisory Committee, because it's a corrugated metal now. Is it a similar material, or is there a more modernized material that does make it safer? Thank you.
Thank you through the chair. At this stage of the environmental assessment planning, we wouldn't have selected any sorts of materials. Staff has heard through other processes feedback already on the existing Trent Severn waterway bridges.
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback will be taken into account as planning continues. Was it negotiable when you say that Parks Canada wanted to relinquish responsibility for the bridge upon its replacement? Is there something negotiable going on here? Because certainly we wouldn't want to take on the maintenance costs. How did that unfold, and can you provide more detail? Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you through the chair. Through the various meetings with Parks Canada, they did express their concerns about the longevity of that bridge and their ability to continue to fund it and maintain it. They have sent a letter, I believe, to the CAO offering for the city to acquire the bridge and take over the responsibility of maintaining it, and satisfying the heritage requirements associated with it, if we were interested, but I don't believe a response has been provided to them at this point in time.
So thank you through you, Chair. That's still to be determined. Okay, and negotiation is still possible then. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cheek. I have Mayor Leal and Councillor DeGay. Mayor Leal, questions?
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Dunford. Thank you very much for the presentation. Mr. Dunford, what is the current state of repair of that bridge in terms of load limits, etc.?
Through the chair, I don't have the exact number, but I know it is limited per axle. So a large number of vehicles can't actually cross that bridge. So I would say it is limited. It is a wood surface bridge. It does have heritage value, so there have been in the past upgrades have respected the heritage value of that and maybe have avoided beefing it up to a heavier duty bridge.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mayor Leal. Councillor DeGay, questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair Beamer. Mr. Dunford, thank you. You did an admirable job pinch hitting. I have some quick questions following up Councillor Chica's remarks regarding the bridge. Can you provide us with a sense of the federal impact assessment? Has that been yet completed, or is that to be completed?
Through the chair, that will be completed during detailed design. There needs to be more engineering details, such as I would expect things like sediment controls to be detailed out. More detailed natural heritage inventory needs to be completed, but that would be done during detailed design.
Thank you. Could you also clarify with respect to the bridge, the clearance from the canal, has that height been determined?
Through the chair, yes, Parks Canada has provided the minimum clearance height that we need to maintain, and I believe it was 6.7 meters, perhaps something along those lines.
That might be very helpful, Mr. Chairman, for other bridge structures crossing the river. I have two quick remarks. Or am I done?
Wait, two questions, but you can keep your remarks to discussion.
Thank you.
Yep.
They will be kept to discussion. Is there a potential for phase construction?
Through the chair, I would say to an extent, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor DeGay, that's
I'm done.
Sorry, just following our procedural bylaw, but you can ask more questions during discussion for sure. Any further questions? Mr. Dunsford, thank you. Appreciate all your hard work. All right, so we're at discussion. We have a few recommendations. So Councillor Reel, you wanted to move them, and did you want to speak? You sure? Okay. Moved by Councillor Reel. Comments or questions? Councillor Baldwin and DeGay. Councillor Baldwin.
Mr. Chair, I guess the question I have is with respect to budget. There's been nothing mentioned here in terms of budget or when staff might be coming back for pre-commitment of the next council. Wondering if I could direct that to Mr. Nelson, if he has any idea when that might be coming to next council or the council after the next council. Yeah, maybe.
Through the chair, basically the anticipation here, yes, is getting the ESR approved, and then subsequently it would be starting to look at the next phases of taking it towards construction, but again, fitting it into the timing. And again, the difficult part here is just that, so timing and then projecting out or giving a cost estimate and then escalating it as the years pass if we aren't able to get it in, and as it competes for those capital dollars along with the other projects that are basically slated to go forward. But again, at this point, it would put us in an opportunity to deal with some of the property impacts as those were basically made apparent through the East Side Transportation Study, and then looking at this in more detail, and then subsequently start to put some pricing to it in order to take it to the next phases at that point. And then again, that's a bit of a progressive step in that once we do some preliminary designs, then we start to create those more detailed budgets. So there will be some estimated budgets that will be put to it in the coming future here once we have an approved. And again, obviously that's still open for council's approval or deferral, whichever comes.
So thanks, Commissioner. Excuse me, that's very helpful. The other question, just picking up on Councillor Duguay, Mr. Chair, phased approach. Blair, would this be a project that would go through the year, or would it be on the shoulder season? So starting in, let's say, April and going through till November, or is it with the project, you see continuing through the winter months, or is it going to be over a series of a couple of calendar years?
Through the chair, again, it would be envisioning it now in terms of a construction and constructability in compliance with the canal and the partners that would be associated. It would most likely look at the bridge from a perspective of trying to maybe do some of that work in the shoulder seasons, as you indicated. However, the other realignments would be expected that would be continued or carried out through a regular construction season, but could very well take multiple construction seasons based on the scope of the work.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Those are all my questions.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Bolden. I have Councillor Duguay, Mayor Leal, Councillor Purnell. Councillor Duguay, comments or questions?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, when considering the staff report, particularly the sheets, the drawing sheets 2 of 4, and if I have them right, 3 of 4, there appears to be, Mr. Chairman, with the proposed realignment, we're going to create some additional green space on the west side of Park Hill Road. And I was hoping staff could clarify, because I thought I heard in the remarks there would be some additional consultation with the public about what will we do with that space, which is now a road, and it could become an open space corridor. I'm wondering if it's more of a discussion item, but I believe that's what I heard earlier today, and I'm just seeking some clarification. Thank you.
I'll defer to Mr. Dunford, but I'll start. I believe we're speaking to the lands that would be the lands that are the current road right away.
Mr. Chairman, that would be correct.
Thank you. Through the chair, again, it's anticipated that this would be explored for purposes of looking at that in terms of best use at time when the detailed designs are starting and discussions with Parks Canada, and looking at it from a perspective of the area of land that we're talking about, as well as its adjacent related use. So again, whether it's for recreational purposes, whether it's parking purposes, any multitude of various options as it relates to benefiting the adjacent lands, and or could even be looked at, possibly utilized for additional development.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Duguay. Mayor Leal.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the recommendations. As someone who kind of frequents that area a lot, You really get a sense of the challenges there. Just recently, of course, Trent Severin Parks Canada were doing the annual maintenance on the swing bridge at Mariah Street, which then forced all the traffic through the one-lane tunnel at the lift lock and indeed the one-lane bridge at McFarland Street. What has always concerned me about this is that the government of Canada, through Parks Canada, are walking away from the responsibility of that bridge. It is my understanding and that there's two such bridges on the Trent Severin system, one here in Peterborough and one up at Severin. Both of them have challenges, Mr. Chair, from a structural point of view, need to be replaced. I think that's pretty evident in this report. And maybe we should take the opportunity. I asked Mr. Nelson this morning if we could provide a bit of a backgrounder to MP Harrison in terms of this bridge and their responsibility, the government of Canada's responsibility to the Trent Severin system, and to follow up from Councillor Chica, the opportunity to have what I would call serious discussions about their responsibility in terms of that bridge and how that bridge is integral to the traffic movement in that area. And we do know, Mr. Chair, that a previous council approved a 1,400 unit subdivision on part of the Lift Lock Golfland property and the property that goes up to Norwood Road. If that ever comes to fruition, I believe it will be sometime due to current market conditions, but potentially there's going to be a significant number of vehicles in that area. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Mayor Leal. Councillor Purnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Following up on Mayor Leal's questions, I would hope that there would be a report coming back to council, because we cannot just assume ownership of a depreciating asset. We don't own it now, and we shouldn't take ownership of it unless there's some financial wherewithal to do so. We're talking 27.8 million just for the road realignment and the new bridge. There's no budget figure in here on what it would cost to maintain the existing bridge now. And I'm assuming, but I'll ask a question. I believe this current bridge does not have heritage status at this point. Is that correct?
Mr. Dunsford.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. If I could call on Diana Adley, our consultants project manager.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, through you, Chair. It is a level 2 resource based on Parks Canada Cultural Heritage designation, which means it's associated with the Trent Severn Canal, but it does not have, it's not considered a very significant resource. It is identified. It's also listed on the City of Peterborough's municipal heritage list.
Okay, so that is something that we will have to consider if we're going to maintain this bridge for heritage reasons. I know kids jump off of it all the time now. Is that going to continue to be safe with the reconfiguration and the new bridge? And there has to be some financial wherewithal to help the municipality absorb that asset and that cost. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Purnell. Councillor Real.
Through the chair, I'll make some comments and then maybe Commissioner Nelson can answer. Shocking that we're looking at 2040 for this to happen. I've sat on council for 16 years. I look at, in that time, Shamong Road, Charlotte Street, Sherbrooke Street, and now this. Nothing seems to be getting done. I know this is all has to do with funding, but here we're looking at something that's pushed out maybe 15, 20 years. So why is this report here tonight if this isn't going to be done in 20 years? Cost will not be relevant here tonight, certainly, but nothing seems to be getting done. Why wouldn't we be working on a cycle of 4 years that we're actually going to do something, a road like Chemung Road, or like Charlotte Street, or Sherbrooke Street, or whatever, instead of pushing this stuff out and getting nothing done? Here, this is another project here that's 15 or 20 years into the future.
Commissioner?
Through the chair. So again, the intent to move it forward at this point was to give staff an opportunity and an ability to deal with some of the land implications as it related and as was indicated through the previous East Side Transportation Study. So bring it to a level at which we did hear from some of the landowners that were interested in trying to deal with some of those land implications now. You know, staff could move it forward, but again, recognizing that there are implications, and through the transportation master plan, it indicated that, you know, demands were such that this would be a project that could be pushed out into the future. Other projects that have recently been delivered that were indicated as being likes of Brayley Drive reconstruction, Park Hill Road West reconstruction, basically Ashburnham Drive reconstruction. You know, all those projects have moved forward and all competed for those capital dollars that are all competing and basically causing hurdles to having other associated capital projects to get delivered forward. So again, it is a challenge that from a funding standpoint and having those capital dollars available to move those projects forward, and this one's no different.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Reel. Councillor Purnell, second time.
Thank you. Actually, Commissioner Nelson mentioned some of the things that I was hoping to bring to light. I do feel it's unfair to say that staff and us have not accomplished anything in the capital area, because there is a pretty impressive map up there on the second floor that highlights all the roads that have been done in the last few years. Commissioner Nelson mentioned a few of the big projects. There are many other ones that they're coming, or that they've been done. There's a lot of work going on, a lot of improvements. Obviously, there's always more to do. We will never catch up. The competition for for the dollars, these capital dollars, it gets worse every week, it seems. But I wondered if we could give Commissioner Nelson another opportunity to perhaps mention some of the other phenomenal projects that have been done, say, in the last 10 years, and what is on the books, say, for the next 2 years. Thank you.
Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you. You're going to tax my memory here a little bit, but there again, you know, one that I do believe Councillor Purnell had talked about is, or one that should be interested in, I should say, is Lansdowne Street West, which is also moving forward. And again, a project that will be coming forward with utilizing capital dollars. You know, on top of that, there's the multitude of pavement preservation projects, as well as the road surface repairs. You know, the Lansdowne Street between Park and George that was recently completed. Obviously, as I say, the next phase of the Lansdowne reconstruction project between Clonsilla and Spilsbury is moving forward. As I say, Brayley Drive, Park Hill Road West, which I already spoke of earlier. Works are in the way, and we're progressing forward with the Chemung Road project. It will be coming to construction because obviously we're continuing to work with property acquisitions and a multitude of other projects that, and as I say, unfortunately, just from memory, you know, there's many other smaller street reconstructions, but again, there's the challenges with the capital funding and the availability of funds. But again, the city's been benefited from a number of funding opportunities as well that has aided us in helping to deliver some of those projects forward. And any of the future projects, we'll continue to look for those funding opportunities and to try and help us deliver those projects forward.
Thank you very much. And I know this is not quite Ashburnham, but if you'll allow me to ask one more question. I know you're working on Lansdowne Street West up by the Home Hardware there. That's fantastic that that's coming along. Can you give us a timeline, please, on the Lansdowne West that is actually between George and the river? We hear an awful lot of comments about that particular section. I know we've been doing some preliminary work on that. Do we have a timeline on that one, please? And of course, Charlotte Street. I'm not sure if you mentioned Charlotte Street, but that is a big one coming up as well.
So through the chair, the Lansdowne Street, as you're aware, the next phase is actually to do the intersection works at Park and Lansdowne. That will be moving forward. There will be some preliminary utility works, and then it will be going. The intent is that we'll be going to construction either later this year or next summer. The Charlotte Street, we do have a consultant. The consultant is in work starting on the detailed designs, and that will be initiating with some work starting probably next summer. And it will be a multi-year project as well.
Thank you for that leeway. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Councillor Purnell. Any further comments or questions? Quick question on the Ashburnham Drive realignment, but since Shamong Road was mentioned, Councillor Elia, you forced my hand. Commissioner Nelson, I think it depends on budget and the 2027 budget, but I believe phase 1 of Shamong Road construction is expected to begin in 2027, 2028. Is that fair?
For yourself,
Pending?
that's basically what staff are shooting for, but pending again, obviously budget approvals.
Of course, but that's certainly exciting news for the community. Any further comments or questions? All right, moved by Councillor Reel. We'll take a vote. And that is carried. All right, our next presentation, 11B, Next Steps, Multi-Use Sports and Entertainment Center, and Commissioner Laidman. Commissioner.
Okay, thanks. Through you, Chair Beamer. The report in front of you, Council, is obviously a significant one and is long and 17 or 18 pages long, I believe. So my purpose in being up here is simply to provide a little bit of a summary for Council and those in the public, just to make sure some key elements of the report are understood as you review it tonight. So I'm just going to go over a few key pieces, where we are in the process right now, how we got here, what the existing Memorial Center status is, financial analysis that's been completed for the project, some additional funding opportunities that are important to understand, and then options for council consideration. So the report goes over in some detail what's gone on in the project so far. So reports for this project date back to 2015, and there is a substantial amount of background work that has occurred that isn't included in the report but is referenced. That includes justifications for the project, market analyses, comparisons to other cities and their major event centers, basic financial analysis for assessment increases and funding options, the parameters themselves of the project, such as seating capacity and other considerations. And of course, it reviewed site locations too, which was a major component of the project. And the graphic up there is from the original report to council, which just kind of lays out what an expected time frame or process might be for such a major project, and kind of in the 30% portion across that graphic right now. So in August, council did approve a preferred site which is at 182 Townsend, which is better known as the Brus Garage and Public Works property. So that was decided by council. It's also directed that a RFQ process be done, which will be used if council approves any of the funding options in tonight's report. So where are we at with the Memorial Center? And again, there's detailed reports about this that council and others can review. It's 70 years old right now. It does not meet new Ontario Hockey League standards. It doesn't meet expectations of large concert promoters any longer. It lacks modern expected amenities for concessions, gathering spaces, dressing rooms, other things that you public and tenants and users expect of a type of a facility. And addressing those deficiencies has been determined in other reports to be financially or operationally not feasible. So what are we looking at for the Memorial Center? So the building condition assessment shows over the next 15 years an expected outlay of over $22 million. That's not to make any improvements. That's to keep the status quo of the building, make sure it remains functional and appropriate. Lighting, flooring, windows, elevators, all those normal things to keep a building functional, but doesn't include its actual functionality as expected. We're doing $1.5 million of capital repairs in 2026 already. None of these figures include the structural roof enhancements that may be needed to continue to provide large-scale concerts with rigging from the roof. The facility has significant operating deficits. Those deficits would be expected to increase as our ability to host events declines. It's really jeopardizing right now the city's ability to be a destination tourism market and jeopardizing the city's ability to function in the events market and offer events of that type, of that caliber to the community. So the report does go over a number of financial scenarios so council understands what various scenarios might hold for the future. It does include a number of basic financial assumptions. The project is being viewed as a $170 million project to be built sometime between 2027 and 2031. Certainly, any tax-supported debt will result in higher debt servicing costs through the operating budgets. Typically, the city's capital management policy has constrained this to about a 2% per year in the tax rate. Any significant additions to debt will reduce flexibility with the overall capital program. And certainly, there's been some assumptions about possible impacts on the city's credit ratings. So in terms of the scenarios, there could have been many scenarios. These scenarios were trying to provide council with an understanding of like the spectrum of impacts. So the first scenario, what really is the maximum affordable city contribution within the city's existing debt capacity limits, which has been set by council of 20% of revenues. That's really about a maximum of $30 million. And that would leave, and that would also leave a significant amount of flexibility for future capital programs and has a minor tax rate increase of about 1%. That then scenario 2 is full debt financing of the whole project, of the whole 170 million through long-term debt issuance. That requires council to consider moving the debt repayments to the maximum allowed by the province at 25%, would allow for all the pre-committed projects to continue, would significantly impact future capital programs to a very small amount. You'd have to amend your debt management policy and would have a 1-year tax impact of about 4 to 5%. And certainly does present some significant financial risk to the corporation. And then lastly, we ran a scenario if council wishes to debt finance a certain portion, in this case, $70 million of the project, and assume asset sales of 100 million, which we would certainly come back to council on if that was a chosen path. That requires raising the debt limit, not to its maximum though. Does allow all the pre-committed projects to continue, of course, allows more flexibility in future capital program, and has a lesser tax rate impact of about 2%. So page 12 has a table comparing those scenarios if you want to refer to that. And again, could have been lots of options within those. That was just to provide some parameters. But I think it is important to understand there are other ways to look at the funding of this project. The proposed site has been intentionally chosen to have a significant development potential to be generated from the project. This type of development is proven to be a catalyst for redevelopment and new development, and this area can certainly has that need and ability. Analysis by Sierra Planning shows a base amount of uplift in the surrounding area could be $270 million, which would go essentially cover the 30-year long-term debt if that came to fruition. And that's one of the main ways that municipalities justify the debt of these types of facilities. There are other minor funding opportunities that we would certainly analyze if council requested it. Increase in municipal accommodation levy, sponsorships, naming rights, ticket surcharges, other things like that can be go towards this. And I think it's important to say that from an economic development and tourism perspective, the site was chosen for its downtown location to ensure the facility has a significant positive benefit to the downtown and the city overall. It has significant potential, as mentioned, for redevelopment in that area. An event center is a regional draw and will ensure that Peterborough remains a regional destination able to host major events, and is an expected type of facility for many businesses and others wanting to move to the city. So staff have provided 5 options for council consideration to move the project forward. It's certainly not an exhaustive list, and the options can be combined with each other as well, in terms of the percentage of the project approved with various types of funding attached. Those options range from moving the project to the next step of development, partial funding options, and then of course, full approval of the project. So happy to take questions. Also, Jonathan Hack from Sierra Planning is present as well if there was any questions about background studies and such that council might have as well. Thanks.
Commissioner Liebman, thank you. Any questions for the presenter? Commissioner, thank you. All right, so we'll move to discussion recommendations. Mayor Leal.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. I will move a modified, what I call option C. I did provide the motion to the clerk in due time this morning, and I think we're able to input it and put it up on the screen, but I'll read it for the public record. That council commit 1/3 of the cost, approximately $57 million towards the event center project. B, that staff be directed to provide a report identifying the funding plan to finance this $57 million commitment, including any amendments that would be necessary to the city's debt limit. C, that staff be directed to initiate proactive advocacy and explore options to acquire the remaining 2/3 of the cost, approximately $114 million, from the Government of Canada, the Province of Ontario, the County of Peterborough, private sector partners, fundraising, naming rights, and sponsorship opportunities and non-debt support sources. D, that staff be directed to provide council with a report detailing options for funds from non-debt supported sources. And E, that 1.7 million be committed to, in the 2027 budget to include a project manager position, site studies, and preliminary consulting services. And Chair, if I could get a seconder, I'll provide some remarks.
You, you don't need a seconder, so you're okay.
I'm ready to go. Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. I fundamentally believe that the 3Ds initiative is no longer viable. Dither, delay, and defer. I believe it's time to pick a lane. Lane 1 is a new modern event center that will lead to revitalization of our downtown, enhance regional economic development, and position Peterborough for Vision 2096 for the next 7 years. Lane 2 is continue to investing in a 7-year-old building with a minimum of $20 million to keep operating, with costs not determined, as that to possibly reinforce the roof and walls, and that will be the determination of a study that's currently ongoing. I think we have to look at the traditional way that we fund infrastructure. In this case, our share would be 1/3, $57 million. We know our experience with the 3D strategy of the Miskin Center that at the end cost the city of Peterborough $39 million. The original model to build that one was 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, each level of government contributing $18 million. But at the end of the day, the city bore the full cost of the project, $57 million. We do know that the staff will provide details on how $57 million fits into our debt ceiling. We are certainly encouraged to date with both the discussions we've had with the Government of Ontario and the Government of Canada on funding opportunities. On Monday, April 27th, we had our first conversation with officials from the Government of Canada, and I want to recognize the great support for MP Harrison, who arranged for this meeting to occur, and her support on this project. We also had a discussion with our MP just today, Mr. Smith. And both discussions were indeed very positive. In fact, I noted when, just for the public record, when Mr. Smith was seeking re-election exactly a year ago, he had this to say when asked specifically about this project. Peterborough Court incumbent and progressive conservative candidate Dave Smith said his years servicing as a minor hockey executive have given him a unique insight in the needs of the local hockey community, and he's supporting the applications by the city for provincial infrastructure funding to help make this project a reality. Quote, "The Memorial Center has lived a good, long life and is now one of the worst arenas in the OHL," said Smith. "The reality is that we need a much better facilities." Smith favors a downtown location for the new facility. You look at other communities that have done something like this, they put in an arena, event center between 5,000 and 5,500 seats. That is an entertainment center that they've been able to revitalize their downtown areas when they do it. I think that's something which should be done very well in Peterborough. It just needs to be done intelligently, said Smith. And further, he points out to conceptual drawings by former Mayor Darrell Bennett had done a redevelopment of the old public works site on Townsend Street, incorporating condos, hotels, restaurants, and a revived train depot around an event center as a potential blueprint. That was a good idea. So we know what he said a year ago, and we welcome that. Mr. Chair, just to continue, people are certainly noticing Peterborough with Alto and the community planning permit system. Many people are looking at Peterborough as seeing a generation of change initiatives. Tomorrow, while I can't reveal the name of the individual, we had a letter just last week from one of the largest equity firms in Canada today, over $3 billion in assets, wants to sit down and have a discussion about possibly investing in this area. He has a Peterborough connection. He formerly played with the Peterborough Petes for 4 years, and indeed, in his note to me, said, "I want to give something back to the city of Peterborough."
Would you like your second 5 minutes?
I'll take my second 5 minutes now. We've also received an email from the McNeven brothers, who we know have an unwavering commitment to our community. Originally, we looked at item E that we wanted to look at a pre-commitment of $8.5 million in the 27 budget. We scaled that back to 1% of the project's value, 1.7. We wanted to make sure that the event center did not inordinately crowd out other projects for capital funding in 2027. We already had a discussion today about the priority of Chemung Road and of course the permanent signalization on Land Street West in front of Home Hardware. Our downtown is the heart of our community. The commercial tax assessment value of downtown is $163,762,297, generating a tax levy of over $5.7 million, representing 18% of the total tax levy of $32 million in an area bordered by Stewart Street, Lake Street, the Otonabee River, and McDonald Street. We've seen in the past when positive investments in downtown Peterborough have led to an assessment uplift. I think of Peterborough Square, which opened in 1995, which was the catalyst for the late Ross Smith and Aon and the Sherney Development Company to make substantial investments in the downtown. We saw the second tranche, Mr. Chair, in 1993, when M&R moved to downtown Peterborough, which led to Jackson Square, which was the consolidation of all federal offices in Peterborough, which led to the building of the parking garage on King Street. In a press conference this morning, we heard from Brenda Whitehill, the CEO of the Peterborough and Kawarthas Chamber of Commerce, Deanna Gutman, the board chair of the Peterborough DBIA, and Paul Harris-Lowe from the city's Economic Development Working Group of what a new event center would do. We saw in our community what a new building like the Canadian Canoe Museum has done for our community. 115,000 visitors in 2025 to the Canadian Canoe Museum and an estimated impact of $7.5 million to our GDP. I want to recognize the work that was previously done by Mayors Darrell Bennett and Mayor Diane Therrien and their roles in moving this project along. Mr. Chair, I just want to conclude to something that I've always fundamentally believed in, that a nation, a province, and city like ours should never suffer from a deficit of ambition. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mayor Leal. So moved by Mayor Leal. It's on the screen, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We have had someone ask that we can separate them out, so we can. So, Madam Clerk, if we can just maybe in preparation for those separating those 5 out for a vote, moved by Mayor Leal. So speaking to this, I have Councillor Reel. Councillor Reel.
To the chair, I want to be very clear. I am not opposed to the idea of a new arena. What I'm opposed to is making financial commitments before we fully understand the risk to the taxpayers. On the 1/3 funding, we are being told that this 1/3 contribution experience shows that municipality projects of this scale rarely stay within original projections. If partners fall short or costs increase, the pressure comes back to the taxpayers. On the debt capacity, increasing our debt capacity by 25% is no small adjustment. It is the fundamental shift in how the city manages its finance. It limits our ability to invest in core infrastructure like roads, water systems, and housing. Right now, it feels like we are committing to a project before we've completed the due diligence. The public expects us to ask the hard questions before, not after, we make a decision of this magnitude. I'm prepared to support moving forward cautiously, but not in a way that exposes taxpayers to open-ended risk or changing our financial framework prematurely. Therefore, I bring an amended motion that no final financial commitment to fund 1/3 of the proposed arena be approved until a full and independent business case is completed, all partners' funding is confirmed in writing, a guaranteed maximum price, GMP, is established, that any increase to the city debt capacity be deferred until the full financial implications are reviewed as part of the complete business case and long-term financial plan, that the $1.7 million for a project manager be approved only for the purpose of due diligence, cost validation, risk assessment, with regular reporting back to council, that staff report back with total projected costs, including contingencies, expected annual operating costs and subsidies, impact on property taxes, and capital planning.
So Councillor L, few issues. One is under a new procedural bylaw, you have to send that ahead of time to the clerk.
How would I do that when I just got this here late today?
The mayor
From the
sent,
mayor.
the
Yeah,
mayor sent
well,
this,
I didn't read mine till this afternoon, so
That's
no
fair.
time to do it.
but the mayor did send it at
Just
9
for the
a.m.
public record, Mr. Chair, it was sent out at 8:30
Yeah.
a.m. this morning.
I understand. And secondly, Councillor Hill, it is contradictory. So if you want to support what you're bringing forward at the appropriate time, best just to vote against what we have on the screen, because what you're proposing is contrary to what we have on the screen. So that's what we'll be voting on. Okay. So speaking to the mayor's recommendations, Councillor DeGay.
Thank you, Chair Beamer. Is it appropriate that I ask a question of staff on one of the items of the modified option 3?
Yes, you can ask all the questions you want and speak to it.
The motion 3. Sorry for that feedback. Try that again. So the motion, it speaks to on item number 4, a report detailing options for funds from non-debt supported sources. So could that, for example, as a follow-up to Mayor Leal's introductory comments, perhaps to CAO Reyna, could that, for example, include the sale of certain subject to the disposal process? Could that involve the sale of certain properties? That the sale of those and sale of the proceeds could be directed specifically to this project. And I'm thinking forward, if I might, Chair Beaver, to CAO Reyna. So, for example, if we were to elect to proceed with this project with the intent to replace the Memorial Center, could we consider as an option, what do we do with the Memorial Center property? We no longer need the property, and there may be other strategic properties in the city where we could sell the property. We could entice developers to consider a certain development yield, and we could use the money. Could we use the monies from that process to address, it would be keeping with item 4. Long-winded question, but there we go.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So if you see in the motion, there is a comment there that the staff will bring back the report with all the possible options. So we will be bringing all options for the council consideration, which will capture all these things which you have said.
Chair Beamer, to that point, if I might, I think that is very important. And I'm encouraged by the flexibility implicit with the motion. I also understand, and we've learned, this municipality has learned from experience, and other municipalities, if there is not a demonstrated municipal commitment insofar as our liaising and pursuing potential federal and provincial government fundings, if we don't have a pre-commitment of funds, we will not receive any provincial or federal funding. Moreover, if we don't pre-commit to this project, I'm wondering how it will be possible to entice and consider a private sector investment. We're saying we have an idea, we're thinking about building a new events and sports facility, but we're not prepared to commit funding. We're going to have a devil of a time securing any funding from our upper levels of government and enticing private sector to be involved. So I think to that extent, I do support the motion as presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor DeGay. Councillor Chica.
Thank you, Chair Beamer. Through you, I appreciate the motion that is in front of us and understand our need to think forward for the future to be able to accommodate our needs around sports and events. However, I I recognize that the reporting back that's mentioned around the first item, it said that staff be directed to provide a report back to us as council identifying the funding plan, and that the next bullet, that we should be provided with a comprehensive funding and implementation strategy to secure the remaining 2/3 of the project cost. That should also be brought back to us, which is approximately 114 million. We need to see that. We need to have staff come back to us to be able to provide that comprehensive funding breakdown and the implementation strategy. I'm concerned, as previous speakers said, about the impact to our taxpayer. We are overextended in the sense that we have made decisions in this term related to quite pricey capital projects. And because we've made those decisions, we're in this position now. So I think it's just really important for us to be vigilant and make sure that we're getting the information before we make a final decision. So I would like, in order to receive the information from staff about the reporting back for the 57 million and for the outstanding 2/3, which would be 114 million, to be able to get that report back. And so I'd like to defer it until we receive that report from staff, those two aspects of the reporting that are presented in this motion. So a motion to defer, if I could, through you, Chair Beamer.
Okay, so deferral is a little different. You don't have to, because it can be made at the meeting. So just defer 2 and 3, Councillor Chica. Can you just, is that, or was it 1 and 3? Sorry.
I think I'd like to defer the whole thing, but based on what's mentioned in 2 and 3, that we need a comprehensive strategy brought back to council for the 57 million and also for the remaining 2/3, the 114 million. What the funding, a comprehensive funding and implementation strategy would be to secure that remaining 2/3. I think to just go today and rubber stamp this without that information brought to us from staff is short-sighted, and a deferral would be helpful to us in order to make next step decisions.
Okay.
So it would be the whole motion.
Defer the whole motion?
Yeah, until staff within a month or whatever it could be, could come back with that information.
Okay, so, oh yeah, so a deferral is always in order. Under the new procedural bylaw, staff are asked what the implications of a deferral would be. So Grant, staff, did you want to respond to that? What the implications of a deferral would be, if anything?
For you, Chair Beamer. I'm just going to divide this into two. First of all, I think from a...
Sorry, I think your mic, if you can just bring your mic up, it's, there you are. Thank you.
So divided into two, kind of the implications. First of all, I think the time frame for us to develop all that's expected in 1, 2, 3, and 4, and to come back would be a number of months. Like, so that will not be an immediate thing, and I would not be able to guarantee council that that would be in a couple of months. That would be a more protracted thing, probably following the summer break at a minimum. Then the second thing is, certainly I don't think staff have comments about the deferral of the project itself. I think we've laid out the implications to the Memorial Center and all those things for council not to make a decision, and it just moves that decision along. And I think Mr. Freeman has another implication.
Okay, Commissioner Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to supplement Commissioner Laidman's comments, so I think what would be important here for staff is I would look forward to the 2027 budget and future budgets beyond that. If council is going to move forward, then we certainly would need to know the impact of the tax supported components of the project and get clarity around that. So without that clarity, of course, we're forced to we're forced to include, for instance, the $57 million at the moment penciled in as a tax supported item. Of course, the whole point of I believe recommendation B is to get clarity on how much of that is tax supported, but we don't have that information yet. I say that and not to in any way, derail the project, but rather that does have implications on what council would see in terms of the draft 2027 budget and the incoming council for the 2027 capital budget that will have impacts there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so that the matter be deferred until staff can prepare a comprehensive funding strategy. Moved by Councilor Chica. Councilor Chica, second time.
Yes, if I may, thank you very much, Chair Beamer, and thank you for those comments, Commissioner Freeman. Appreciate that. I just want to insist again that the original motion, which I respectfully see the significance and importance of a motion like that, realistically looking at things and breaking it down. However, we do need information, and the motion itself speaks to that need for information. So the time that's taken to get it, reporting back about a detailed funding strategy for the 57 million, and the 2/3 of the comprehensive funding and implementation strategy. I think it's essential for our taxpayers to recognize that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we're thinking this through and just with our mind's eye on the 2027 tax burden. We've had, I'm glad to hear that we've had conversations with the federal government and with the province related to this. I'm curious about what the conversations have been with the county, because the county was mentioned in the report in terms of being a regional destination. I think all of those conversations are essential in what may be their interest in contribution and knowledge of what this project would include. I think we can't be short-sighted on that, and I would like to see a report back include the county in terms of their potential interest and potential contribution in the financing aspect. So that's another reason that I think a deferral is in order, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Chica. So speaking to the deferral, I got Councilor Baldwin and Purnell. Councilor Baldwin?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair, and through you, I'm not going to support the deferral. Respectfully, we've kicked this down the road since 2015. I don't know how much longer you can defer a project of this magnitude that, in my view, would be transformational for the community. I have every confidence that staff come back with the required information. But unless we commit $57 million to, respectfully, to Councilor Chica, with no financial commitment, why would we talk to any partner? We haven't even put in our money. We haven't supported the project financially ourselves. So we could talk to the province. We can talk to the feds. We can talk to the development community. We can talk to the 8 municipalities around Peterborough. I go back to the Canadian Canoe Museum. We committed $500,000 over 8 years for $4 million. The county, they made a contribution of $250,000. So I think there's a proven track record that if you have a project that's worthy, and I agree it's a regional hub, it would be a regional sport and entertainment facility that many people access, not just people who live in the county. People come from Oshawa, people come from Toronto. When Alto comes, they could come from Quebec City and Montreal and Toronto and all parts in between to get something that we do or that we offer. So I think the time is absolutely imperative that we commit tonight. If none of the other funding comes forward, we haven't committed anything. What the mayor's motion says is we're going to put our money up front, we're going to commit to the project, and then seek out those partnerships. If no other partnerships come forward, we haven't spent a nickel. You're back into putting $25 or $30 million into a 70-year-old building. And when we get back to the main motion, Mr. Chair, I have some remarks with respect to the history of the Civic Arena and the Memorial Center and where we are tonight. So to reiterate respectfully, I'm not going to support the deferral. We've deferred this now for 11 years. Let's get on with building this facility. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Baldwin. Councillor Purnell, deferral?
Yes, thank you. I did want to speak to this. I think I will support the deferral. Like my colleagues, I would absolutely love to have a new major use sport and entertainment complex downtown that would hopefully create this assessment uplift in 10, 15 years while we carry the costs. This is the biggest project in the history of Peterborough, and we're talking about it 6 months before an incoming council. And they could very easily just turn it over their very first meeting. But it is going to definitely impact capital financing, our ability to build almost anything else in the city for decades, and definitely affect the next council and the council after that and the council after that. I think they should be the ones to make the decision. This is good information. That 6-month time gap could allow staff to proceed with the due diligence, see if we can actually secure real money from the province and from the federal government. That would make it feasible. We cannot afford to do this just on the municipal tax dollar. We cannot. Literally, we would be maxing out all of our credit cards. We would increase our debt limit to the point that our own credit rating would suffer, which means all other projects are now more expensive. So there's a lot of speculation and faith and optimism. Would this be lovely for our community? Yes, but there is the reality of how we're going to pay for it and what it's going to do to all of our other capital needs. We need balance. We can't just have all of our eggs in this one basket. We continue to need to improve our roads and numerous other facilities throughout our city. There's a lot of pressure from different segments within our community. A lot of it should be provincial responsibility, but it's coming down onto us, and the consequential costs of those social ills is on us. Those are all true costs, whether they're capital or operating. So we really have to be careful. I am the one who asked for this to be separated out. I don't really want to pre-commit to 57 million, because it's not just 57 million. It's that, and then whatever additional land costs or designer costs or whatever else could be added to that. But I do very much support us continuing the work that the mayor has done, phenomenal work, trying to secure federal dollars in particular. He quoted our own MPP tonight, so hopefully he will be on board. Private sector, we haven't realized that yet. We were quite hopeful that that would come to us. We haven't seen that yet, but I think it's just a little bit too early, this close to a new council, to fully commit to this. But I certainly want this new center, and we know there are difficulties with the Memorial Center, but we have to be realistic about what we can afford to do with all of our other responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Purnell. Deferral, Councillor Reel.
Through the chair, I will be supporting the deferral. In building off what Councillor Purnell had to say, my amendment says exactly what she was saying, and building off of, if you listen to what Commissioner Freeman said, his group is going to go back if $57 million is supported tonight. And that's what we were building on part of the budget for the next council. That's in there. So this next council comes with a start of a $75 or $57 million debt, with whatever that percentage is of a tax increase, and saying that's your start right there, let alone what the start is of what we have to pay to keep the city going. So I want to make crystal clear what Commissioner Freeman said. His staff has to do their job for the next council. That is building off, if this goes through tonight, that $57 million is sitting there, and he will make all of the nuances that has to do with that budget to present to the next council. I don't want to saddle the next council with something that, like Councillor Brunel said, the very first thing they get said, that's really great that the council of 2026 voted for this, but that certainly isn't where I am and could overturn it. I hope they don't. I hope that we move through on some of these things that are here in this motion, but certainly not pre-committing $57 million of taxpayers' money. We have done absolutely nothing. I don't know where the business plan is for this. If you were to walk into the bank, the first thing they're going to say is, where's your business plan? I don't see no business plan for this. I see a wish list. And we would like to build this $200 million arena. This is what we think it's going to do down at Little Lake, and have nice renderings of drawings and all of this stuff, like, of what this could be potentially look like, and a build out in 30 to 40 years. I can't see the bank giving you a dime on something that might potentially happen. Councillor Duguay says, you can't get any money unless you pre-commit the money. Well, we have to do our due diligence first before we even say we want to support $57 million. I've met with proponents. They are not interested in one red copper to an arena because they said arenas don't make money. They're interested in commercial and residential. No money to arenas. I don't know where this fictitious person is that's going to cut a check for $114 million, because I haven't seen it, and I've talked to most of the proponents. Their business is not arenas. Arenas don't make money. It's been quite plain to me. But we're going to build a $200 million arena that doesn't make money. So we have enough commitments right now with a new police station, with a fire hall, with the other commitments we have to build the Miskin-Law Arena. You start adding that up and add this to that, you won't be able to do too much. So I will be supporting the deferral.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hill. Deferral, Councillor DeGay.
Yes, thank you, Chair Beamer. I will not support the deferral. Like Councillor Baldwin, this matter about a event and sports facility has been debated by this council for many, many years. I've had opportunity to visit several communities that have built major event and sports facilities, both downtown and suburban. I want to cite specifically the city of Windsor, which, from a strategic move, instead of investing in their downtown, replacing on a very old arena, they could not, because of potential land needs to address the international tunnel. They elected instead to build suburban. They used lands that were a former brownfield site, and the arena, the floor pad, including the Windsor Family Credit Union, the home of the Spitfires, was built first. The lands around it now, with the exception of perhaps 2 acres, are completely built out. All the residential components, the hotels forthcoming, the restaurants forthcoming. I've witnessed the impacts it's had on the area, on businesses. Now it's a suburban location. We've seen examples, for those of us that have toured the Meridian Center, those of us that have gone to Kingston and Guelph and other centers, and we've seen the immediate impact that it has on our community. And I'm not, frankly, this council has made decisions that have pre-committed the next council repeatedly. So are they going to not do Shamong Road? Are they not going to do Lansdowne Street West? Are they not going to do Park Street? I don't believe they will. This is a community and area priority. I have one question, if I might, of staff. Perhaps starting maybe with CAO Reyna. I suspect it might be deflected to Commissioner Freeman. If the municipality pre-commits $57 million to this project, will it render all of our planned 2027 projects as being no longer feasible? All of our capital projects contemplated for 2027, will they not be able to proceed?
Thank you. Through your chair, I will pass it on to my CFO.
As I suspected.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. A couple of thoughts. Will it render all of the capital program? Will it allow some of it to carry forward? The answer is it will allow some items to carry forward. So let me give you the list that I believe would continue to move forward, that are what I would believe are pre-commitments right now today on the books. So that would be the transit garage, the police station, Charlotte Street from Water to Park, Lansdowne Street West, some works on Tower Hill Road, some works on Otonabee River Trail, as well as, well, and let me give you this one. Let me include this one, and that is the 1190 Hilliard, the housing project. That is, I suspect, in 2028. I say that because council's already turned their mind to that, even though I know, Councillor, you referenced 2027, but I need to draw that to council's attention. I believe that the timing of that would be such it's probably 2028, but I believe that to be a priority of council that they would want to see move forward. So those are the list of projects I would have. So I know that the original motion of His Worship item B is to get clarity on how much of this would be tax supported. Of course, we don't have that information yet. So it would see it move forward, that 1/3, the 57 million, plus the pre-commitments that I've just shared with council. Now, outside of that, though, and this is where the rub comes, you know, the next couple of years of council, 2027, 2028, everything else, cumulatively, about $15 million. That would be it. Unless, under the proviso that council would entertain moving into the last, you know, expanding the debt capacity. All of my comments are such that you're still living within your own internal debt capacity. I'll leave it at that right now, Mr. Chairman.
Like your second 5 minutes.
Try that again. Yes, I'll be brief. I believe there are opportunities still available to this municipality through the collective abilities of our staff to identify funding sources. If we are, and again, I'll reiterate what Councillor Baldwin said and I said earlier, we would be putting ourselves in an impossible position if we were to contemplate proceeding and trying to attract funding from government sources, the upper two levels of government, potentially the county of Peterborough, also our ongoing discussions or interest expressed through private sector without some pre-commitment. This has been a matter that's been discussed this is the third council that's discussing the very same subject. And every time it's delayed, the cost goes up. And we've heard this evening, and we know as much as the Memorial Center, a 70-year-old facility, which has admirably served our community, it's old and tired. It can't keep up with current demand. It can't meet current OHL, CHL standards. I suspect the Lakers are having complications. We've heard that we can no longer hold major concerts, which is a revenue source. And when we have those major concerts, people not only attend the concert, but they also enjoy and likely stay down in our hotels, in our accommodation facilities, and eat food while staying in our community. I can appreciate some of my colleagues' hesitancy from a financial perspective to proceed. But if we continue with our financial hesitancy, that procrastination will only lead to this facility costing more and more money. And I think it would be, from my perspective, to the detriment of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor DeGay. Any Councillor Purnell, a deferral second final?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify a couple of points that I have learned along the way. Again, I would love for this to happen for all the reasons previously stated. But this is community betterment. It's not, arenas do not make money. The concerts that we have do not make money. They do generate some economic benefit in the community. They do add to our quality of life. We know that sports and recreation and arts, libraries, trails, all of those things are very important to our quality of life in Peterborough, in addition to, the fire and the police and EMS and roads and bridges, all of those things. But they don't make money. They do generate some, hopefully, assessment uplift over time, and they do add, it's a community betterment thing, much like a library does not make money, but very, very important to our quality of life. So the big question is, yes, we want it. We definitely want to build this thing, but what are we going to sacrifice to get it? Are we going to be looking at selling off some of our assets that actually do create revenue, interests for us? We had a fantastic financial report tonight on how well our investments are doing that actually we use mostly for capital improvements. So those are actually, living and making money for us, and we're reinvesting those into the community. A couple of times we've used them to keep the tax rate down when things were really, really tight for us at budget time. That's not sustainable. It's not good financial policy, but we've done it twice because the tax rate is very important to a lot of people. We have many, many people on fixed incomes, and I keep hearing that they just don't want their property taxes going up continually. And we are all struggling with how do we provide the services that we need to provide to our community, plus some of the services we really want to, but maybe we can't afford them. So we do need to do our due diligence, just like you would in your own household. You really want something, but can you afford it? And what are you going to sacrifice to get it? So I do want this to move forward, but I do think it's a decision for the next council. That does give the time for staff to do much more of their due diligence, hopefully secure some of those dollars from other sources. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Purnell. Councillor Baldwin, second and final on the deferral.
Second and final. Mr. Chair, I heard Commissioner Laidman say that our consultant from Sierra Planning was in the building. I'm wondering if I could get Mr. Hack to answer a couple of questions. John, you've got experience in multi-use sport and entertainment facilities across the country. I'm wondering if you could just give us a closed notes version of what transformations of a positive nature you've seen when an arena goes into an area that's selected by Peterborough City Council. And I agree a little bit with Councillor Purnell with respect to community arenas, but I know several arenas, multi-sport arenas, make money around the country and around North America. Respectfully, I think community rinks sometimes don't, like the Miskin Arena and Northcrest previous to that. But multi-sport entertainment facilities, I believe there are some that do make money, and I think we can do it here. So comments from you, sir.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. We've got to be very clear that we're not talking about community arenas, firstly. And then actually I would, as members of council have heard from me before, this is not just a sport and entertainment facility project because of the way we've selected a site that's a complicated brownfield site, offers a potential for regenerative economic development in the city as well. So it is a slightly larger animal than just arenas. But on the issue of having the arenas, generally they are deficit propositions. When you're talking about a 5,000 or 6,000 seat venue that is generally owned, perhaps not operated, but owned by the municipality in which it's located, and it may offer Quebec League or OHL or other kinds of opportunities, there is some level of deficit that's generally. There are a couple at the community level. Kingston was always one that, because of the nature of it being literally in a very favorable spot relative to the major markets of Toronto and Montreal, it was able to put in place an agreement with a third-party operator that allowed the risk to be transferred more to the operator. So there are ways to go through that. I think just the last thing I would say is that we've spoken about and we've reported on the assessment uplift that's there. And I've shared with council before some of the examples. So Kingston is one such example. There is some movement of development now. The Windsor is another good example. There are others around the country. And the one that I think comes most to mind, though, is the city of Moncton. And for a couple of reasons. One is the scale of the city is somewhat similar. It was a contaminated brownfield site close to the railway in downtown. As a result of the commitment, which took a while to get off the ground, none of these projects are easy. So I think council needs to be, we all need to reflect upon that. That there was an immediate uplift. And so I think after about, just as it opened its doors in 2018, they'd reached about $60 or $80 million of increased assessment uplift. That results in a certain taxation increment that they can achieve, and it's gone further from there. So there are positives. There is some blue sky in this, and I know that when we talk about financials, it can be challenging to do that. But just to answer your question, and then the economic impact on an annual basis from the events that go on, we actually did some work way back at the beginning of our work on this project, which was 2018, and we came up with a figure at the time of around $13 million annual economic impact from the 70 or so commercial events that we anticipated would happen in the city. So that's the spending on the operations of the arena itself, multi-use center, and then the economic impact that's from the food and beverage, people buying their gas and staying overnight, and so on and so forth. So that, in a nutshell, is where it sits.
Thank you very much for that. Mr. Chair, one other comment with respect to the deferral. There are many people in the Peterborough community who are watching tonight, and there are many people from the community who will want to come and register to speak next week at council. If we defer this tonight, I'm not sure they'll have that opportunity. So I'm going to, again, oppose the deferral this evening. I'd like to hear from the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Baldwin. Any further comments or questions on the deferral? Mayor Leal, deferral?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just quickly on the deferral. It's unfortunate that Jillian Barnes is not here this evening, because I have asked her a series of questions. This council, of course, approved in 2026 the structural study of the Peterborough Memorial Center. If that study comes back and it says that we have to reinforce the roof so that you could adhere very heavily sophisticated audio equipment for a concert, that would be in the neighborhood. I think Jillian gave me an estimate, $4 to $5 million, but that's just not the start. If you reinforce the roof, you then have to reinforce the walls to support the new roof. But more importantly, I want to know which member of council will be sitting down with the users of the Memorial Center, look them straight in the eye and say, this is going to be offline for 9 to 12 months if we're going to do that work. Somebody's going to have to do that. Somebody's going to have to do that. And you want to talk about revenue Memorial Center, take everybody out of there for 9 to 12 months. That's the reality of the construction project of that magnitude, to reinforce the roof and the walls. Secondly, I didn't mention in my remarks what Karen Heslop from the Canadian Canoe Museum shared with me. 115,000 visitors in 2025, which generated $7.5 million in economic activity generated by the Canadian Canoe Museum. But more importantly, 75% of those visitors were from outside of Peterborough. That gives you a real indicator what a new modern facility can draw for this community. And I think that's pretty important, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mayor Leal. Deferral? All right, moved by Councillor Lachika. We'll take a vote on the deferral. And that is lost. All right, we're back to the amended main motion. Any speakers? Councillor Baldwin for first time.
First time, Mr. Chair. I wanted just to speak a little bit about history here. So I hope you'll bear with me for, I may take my full time here if that's okay, but we're speaking, Mr. Chair, about whether or not we're going to support the construction of a new multi-sport and event center. I want to take all of us in the room back 83 years to October the 18th, 1943. That's a long time ago. It's before I was born and before Mayor Leo was born. When City Alderman Herb Bradburn proposed a resolution to Mayor James Hamilton to call a public meeting to determine a plan for building a new rink. By the end of the month, the provisional committee began making plans to build an artificial ice arena for the city. The committee was structured to represent virtually every facet of Peterborough's civic interest, and the group began a search for an appropriate location for a new arena. In 1944, the city announced a financial drive to build a new modern-day arena, the Peterborough Memorial Community Center. Importantly, donations to the project could be deducted from income. On November the 24th, 1944, James Hamilton was acclaimed mayor of the city of Peterborough for the 8th straight time, and the community supported the construction. Hockey volunteers, service organizations, various business and factories, and city taxpayers all got behind the project, and they channeled their energy and their finances toward the goal of building the Peterborough Memorial Community Center, even though it would be several years before the drive or the dream would become a reality. On November the 2nd, 1946, the city unveiled plans for the construction of the Memorial Center. The original cost, $390,000. While plans were put in place to build the PMC, another group of people put together a secondary plan for what became the Civic Arena on Park Street, which was the preferred location. A contract with T.A. Wilson Lumber Company was signed and construction began on June 17th, 1948. That's 7 years before the Memorial Center, actually 8 years before the Memorial Center opened. That same day, the fundraising chairman on June 28th began a 3-day door-to-door canvass throughout the community. At the same time, construction of the new hospital, the Civic Hospital, was also going on. Secondary rink on Park Street, a new hospital that opened on May the 20th, 1950, and then the Memorial Center that opened on November the 8th, 1956. On October the 16th, 1948, the Peterborough Examiner carried a full-page advertisement highlighting 20 reasons citizens should support construction of the Civic Arena Building Fund. That would be the secondary rink. Mr. Chairman, I share this history with my colleagues about the Civic Arena, which opened on January the 3rd, 1949. It was built to replace the Brock Street Arena. When that particular facility was sold in 1942, became a dance hall and a place for wrestlers to wrestle once a week. The Peterborough Memorial Center was constructed by local builder Eastwood Construction and opened on November the 8th, 1956. In 2003, Peterborough City Council elected to renovate the Memorial Center at a cost of $13 million. They added 24 luxury boxes, a 900-seat club section, and they put in an air conditioning system. In May 2019, another $4 million was invested for a new floor. Remember, there was quite a debate at that time in 2019. We recently learned that a structural engineer determined the Memorial Center roof could not safely support the riggings for the Offspring concert this past February the 17th. And so, Mr. Chairman, like previous city councils before us, we are faced with a decision. Rest assured, the Memorial Center will be replaced at some point. It just will. And there will never be a cheaper time to replace it. We are tasked today with an opportunity to invest in a legacy project that I believe will fundamentally change the strength and the vibrancy of our community and our downtown. So in summary, Mr. Chair, I am absolutely 100% supportive of the motion that's before us. Thank you.
4 minutes and 59 seconds. Thank you very much. Any further comments on the amended May motion? Councillor Reel for a second and final.
The chair, I haven't heard one councillor say they are not in support of a new sports and entertainment center. I haven't heard that. I'm not. I haven't said it. But I'm talking about funding this with city's taxpayer money. Right now in the books, we have a police station at 90+ million, fire hall to pay off, Miskin Law Arena, 60+ million, transit garage to build, and then add 57 million if we add that tonight. I don't know where that's all. I'm going to coin a phrase by former mayor Bennett, who said, I don't see any money trees planted on the front lawn of City Hall here. This is taxpayers' money that's used to do something. Well, again, I'm going to reiterate. Oh, before I say that, my mother gave to the PMC when she worked at General Electric. It was a drive that was on, and certainly she paid for it. And when she heard that they might be tearing it down, she ripped a strip off of me.
Good for her.
Yeah. But having said that, I mean, we have to look at this from a council's point of view of what the taxpayer can pay for. And again, I'm going to go back. I haven't heard in any of these reports a business plan that warrants going forward on this. All we want to do is defer this to get our due diligence. Councillor Purnell has asked to separate this out. I think that's a great idea. But I mean, I am looking at this here at 170 million plus. I'm using the word plus because I can see this going north of $200 million pretty quick. And so certainly, I think it behooves us to be cautious when we do this, but also for the next council. And me, I've always been, and certainly I've sat on council for 16 years of saddling the next council with a debt load that they didn't warrant for them to do. And that's the one thing they're going to have to address when they're doing a budget for the first time. And it's a scary situation doing your budget for the first time. I know how I felt doing it. And the new ones, and usually historically, there's a 50% turnover in council, respectively. And here you've got 5 new people looking at this year going the same as I did, looking for senior councillors to give them some sort of advice on how this budget should be worked out. But they are going to be saddled with this debt load alone, let alone what's already been pre-committed. And certainly Commissioner Freeman told us about some of the debt commitments we've already made, and certainly all of them good projects. But this here, I mean, the deferral didn't go through, so we'll see how this works out with it separated out.
Thank you very much, Councillor Reel. Councillor Chica, second and final.
Thanks very much. Through you, Chair Beamer. You know, I'm really appreciating the frankness and the honesty around the table about a project of this scale. It is the biggest project that we would be engaging in a decade and beyond. Councillor Riel just pointed out that none of us have said that it would not be important to invest in this. And the deferral didn't have anything to do with saying no to it or putting it off for another term of council. It was simply asking that we take the time to be fiscally responsible. Take a few months for the reporting to come back, as that motion is asking. The motion's asking for it, but we're not taking the time to have that fiscal responsibility, that fiscal lens. There's no more wiggle room. There's so much uncertainty about the municipal tax debt and what that will be in 2027 and forward. In 2025, our asset management plan highlighted 132 million annual shortfall for our backlog. And our road networks, all of the things, our bridges, our related assets that need to be maintained, that's our backlog annually. We need to take all these things into consideration as we consider our municipal tax rate and the impact that this will have. And this is not about saying no for another whole term. This is about saying no until we had more information. So as it is, I cannot support this motion because it doesn't allow us the time to do our due diligence, which I believe is my responsibility as a councillor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cheek. Any further comments or questions? Moved by Mayor Leal, we'll take a vote and we'll separate the 5 items out. And number 1 is carried. Take a vote on number 2. Number 2 is carried. Number 3. Number 3 is carried. Number 4. Number 4 is carried. And finally, number 5. And that is carried. All right, thanks everyone. 14A, designation of 212-216 London Street. Councillor Hakey.
Just didn't want it to pass on consent.
I figured. Moved by Councillor Lachica. We'll take a vote. And that is carried. And notice of objection, Hunter Street West, Councillor Hakey. All right, moved by oh, actually, I don't know who's going to move this. Moved by Councillor Hakey. Okay, we'll take a vote. Oh, sorry, Councillor DeGay.
Thank you, Chair Beamer. Director Appleby is in the room, if I might, just to clarify. Director Appleby, on page 2 of the report, the background section, could you help me, sir, understand that if council proceeds to approve the designation, the property owner can appeal the matter to the tribunal? Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor DeGay. Further comments or questions? Moved by Councillor Hakey. We'll take a vote. And that is carried. All right, so we move to reports out of closed session. We have two coming out this evening on consent. The first consent item, proposed land acquisition, that council approved the recommendation outlined in report LSRS 26-013 dated May 4th, 2026 of the Commissioner of Legislative Services as follows. That respecting a proposed land acquisition, staff be directed to proceed as outlined in closed session report LSRS 26-013 dated May 4th, 2026 of the Commissioner Legislative Services. Second item coming out, second consent item from closed, civic awards, that council approved the recommendation outlined in report LSCLK 26-015 dated May 4th, 2026 of the city's clerk on behalf of the Citizen Appointment Selecting Working Group as follows. That staff be directed to proceed as outlined in closed session report LSCLK 26-015 dated May 4th, 2026 of the city clerk on behalf of the Citizen Appointment Selection Working Group respecting 2025 civic awards. So both of those were on consent, and we do have one item this evening coming out of closed session, land acquisition. That council approved the recommendation outlined in report CSD 26-003 dated May 4th, 2026 of the Commissioner of Community Services as follows. That staff be authorized to proceed as outlined in closed session report CSD 26-003 dated May 4th, 2026 of the Commissioner Community Services. Moved by Mayor Leal. Comments or questions? We'll take a vote. And that is carried. We have no notice of motion. Other business. Mayor Leal, other business?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. On Saturday night, I had a really unique privilege to being representing City Council at the International Whitewater Hall of Fame at the Canadian Canoe Museum. And why this is so unique is this represents 11 countries from around the world. And at that event on Saturday, they had representatives from 11 countries around the world. Many of them, it was the first opportunity to see Peterborough, and they were enthralled with the Canadian Canoe Museum. And one of the recipients of this award was an American. She had won a silver medal in the Atlantic Olympics of 1996. And then 4 years later, I think at Barcelona, won another medal there. And she is donating her kayak to the Canadian Canoe Museum. And to my colleagues from Ashburton Board, there was a big pitch, and every one of them was going over to Ashburton Ale House to enjoy the rest of their evening. So you want to talk about economic development, and there were about 250 people in the room, and they were all making a V-line to the Ashburton House. Unfortunately, I couldn't join them, but I do know they were en masse like a convoy heading over there. Mr. Chair, it was an exciting event for Peterborough.
Great news. Thank you, Mayor Leal, for that. Other business? Motion to adjourn. Councillor DeGay, we'll take a vote. That is carried. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, staff. Thanks, community. Have a good week.